magic, right? You know,
From my perspective, it's all magic since I don't know what the hell you're doing.
you don't. Well, I mean, you don't. The upside is you don't have to worry about how all the magic happens after this point. It can be completely indistinguishable from magic from your perspective.
Exactly.
But we're back again. We're going to try to make this a regular thing.
That's right.
I have just appropriated the name CUB Tracks for this because we used to have an old. Way old newsletter for CUB that was called CUB Print. Is that what it was?
Yeah, or paw prints.
Paw Prints. I don't know. It was
One of those,
I
yep.
think it was like CUB Prints or something like that for our old newsletter when you used to actually send out those types of things. So
We were digging through the archives and found a bunch of those, and for our anniversary celebration, 2 years, almost 3 years ago.
I can't keep
Time's
track
flying.
of time. Yeah. So don't call it a podcast. I don't know if I can hold up to that kind of pressure of like putting this out on the kind of regular podcast schedule. But the last time we talked about a project that the commission was going to be taking up and considering an application by We Energies and Wisconsin Public Service. And the commission sat last week Thursday and made its decision.
Yeah, we got one vote. That's not quite enough in this. One is not quite enough. It's a 3-person body, so 2-to-1 vote in favor of the utilities. So that is not what we were looking for. Disappointing in a number of fronts. Still feel like the utility hadn't met the burden of proof on this one.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it last time, but the way I looked at it was there was sort of a burden of proof issue, and also even when you looked at what was in the record, all the information that we were looking at, even though it came out sort of at the 11th hour, based off of a request made by commission staff, there was some evidence that, in my view, sort of at least very clearly threw up a warning flag that said this project may be at a minimum oversized, if not unnecessary, depending on how you viewed future natural gas prices. So
yeah, if anything, it may be a project at half the size, less than half the size of what was proposed would be economical for customers, but that's not that evidence just seemed to not carry the weight that I thought it would, and I think we thought it would.
Yeah. It raises the question, if that kind of evidence isn't enough to tip the scale, what is? But we're just talking about natural gas prices, and we were talking with Steve earlier about forecasting and exciting things like that. But you and I were talking about the real impact that natural gas prices are having on utility customers right now. Right.
Well, I mean, and we've seen it for a while now with the prices from Winter Storm Uri last year, that if you recall, the storm that led to the Texas crisis and blackout last year, drove up prices here and across the country, and resulted in surcharges, and then concerns about exports to Europe drove prices up last summer, and those prices in turn helped set the market price at a time when utilities were storing natural gas for this winter, and we're setting prices for what electric costs would be for including natural gas prices for this winter. So we've seen a lot of natural gas price issues, and then once in recent weeks with the war, we've got more issues with natural gas potentially.
Yeah, and I actually went and looked up on the St. Louis Fed, their FRED database. You can pull up all manner of things. So that's an easy place to get something like Henry Hub natural gas spot prices. And if you look at it over time, it's just kind of a line that trucks along in like the 2 to 3 kind of range for years and years and years. And then there's this huge $24 spike on the 17th of February of last year. Then it comes down, but from that point, you can see between here and now, and maybe, I don't know, future Corey, put in a graphic or put a picture up here, like right here, that, from pretty much after the storm last year, prices have been sort of slowly moving up.
Right.
And You mentioned, the situation in Ukraine and with natural gas, and this is something most people don't think about. Natural gas is a globally traded commodity now. It used to be, it only went as far as the pipe would go, but now you can put it on a liquefied natural gas ship and send it wherever. So just like oil, it responds to, global markets. And, the war in Ukraine is having an impact on natural gas prices. And, I think you were out, talking with folks in the press and all over this past winter about, what folks should be thinking about related to natural gas.
Yeah, no, I mean, the pressure, the concern with natural gas with Ukraine is if Russia's gonna, if Europe's gonna wean itself off of Russian oil and gas and energy, it's gonna put demand on the U.S. market to export that gas. And, people have been forecasting for a long time that there might be at some point, there may be a more global shift in the gas prices where there's more of a one global price, if you will. Right now, the price of natural gas is still much higher in Europe than it is here. But as U.S. exports more, it creates concern of over-reliance on natural gas here. And, A, are we going to have enough here? And B, are we going to over-rely on natural gas? And C, how much are we going to have to pay? From a home standpoint, it's really incumbent on people to really take steps, and if they can, try to get those energy audits to find places to find the leaks in your house that are basically leaking out energy and leaking out money every time a cold snap hits. That's really imperative in terms of savings. But it's really a challenging time that we people get lulled into sensing that the prices are going to just stay the way they are, and the way it seems like with natural gas, whether it's from Hurricane Katrina or other events, natural gas prices are volatile. And sometimes if it goes for a long period where they haven't been volatile, we forget that they still can be.
Yeah, and you mentioned, things like getting an energy audit or looking into efficiency, and that really relates to kind of how this, this sort of market news or headline news stuff you see, which might not seem like it's real for most people, really hits, people on a in their day-to-day lives. The natural gas prices this winter for heating were pretty high, especially in the sort of October, November timeframe. And that was really driving up people's heating bills this winter. And then, you mentioned, reliance on natural gas. And, one of the things when people talk, this may sound a little academic at this point, but when you're talking about things like commodities and risk and price volatility, one of the easiest ways to kind of deal with that risk is to diversify, right? In anything, when you have risk and volatility, if you diversify, you can manage that. And that's one of the things in the utility industry on the electric side that was actually a consideration for a long time was, diversity of fuel, fuel diversity, diversity in the source of electricity. And, in the move to, decarbonize the electric sector, decarbonize the economy at large, we've been moving to natural gas. And while certainly, decarbonization of the economy and the utility sector is on balance for society great, it does bring with it its own challenges in that, we used to have coal plants and there used to be an alternative for sort of conventional generation to meet those needs. And as we go forward, with some of the projects we've been talking about, this RICE project, other plans that have been brought forth by some of the utilities, it's looking increasingly like, at least in the kind of midterm, I don't know, maybe even long term, we're still going to be, reliant on gas, but more than that, we're going to be sort of reliant on only gas as a commodity fuel, meaning that to the extent that drives any of your prices for electricity, it's going to be really, really sensitive to these global market price spikes.
Yeah, they talk about natural gas being kind of that bridge fuel for the clean energy transition, and this is where the rubber's going to meet the road on how affordable or unaffordable or costly the evolving energy world is going to be.
Yeah, and it's it's interesting. I'm not there's obviously no right answer to this, but I think the biggest thing for folks is kind of awareness, right? One of the things we are going to be dealing with starting really 5 days ago is looking at, what do we do about fuel costs from 2021? Most people don't know, but there is a fuel reconciliation process where, essentially if fuel costs more in a given year, then a little extra money is needed from customers. If fuel costs less than we thought it was, then some money goes back to customers. And this past year, like we were talking, fuel costs were real high for electricity. And so, I haven't double checked yet, but I'm pretty certain that all the utilities are in for under collection of fuel prices, fuel costs in 2021, and so that's going to affect electricity prices in the short term, and then, like I said, in the long term, there's these considerations of like what's going to happen. Are we going to go back to a world of $3 gas for a long time, or have we hit some sort of inflection point in the world, the global market, where $6 gas or fluctuations between $3 and $6 gas or even higher is going to become the norm?
Yeah, that's the real concern, is that people are saying, well, we may not go back to $2 gas. Well, I think now we know that, but that's just a question of whether we can get back to $3 even at this point is now a real question mark, and $3 gas. What does that mean? It means we saw big savings in 2020 during the pandemic when the economy economy was in lockdown. Everything kind of halted, and prices for commodities fell, including natural gas, during that phase, and that was not sustainable. But what is the price going forward? I'm no forecaster, but it's a lot of drivers are looking toward higher than maybe a lot of people were thinking even just months ago or last year.
So if you were talking to your average utility customer, homeowner, small business owner, who's already facing this year all of this sort of consumer cost, consumer price inflation.
Inflation's everywhere.
Yeah, and that's I think if you talk to a lot of people that there's hope that that's sort of a short-term issue.
Exactly.
We're all aware of supply chain issues and that kind of thing, and so there's a difference between 8% inflation forever and versus just sort of in the short term for various goods and whatnot.
Right.
But for folks that are facing price pressure right now, thinking about these fuel cost issues, what would you tell them?
I think they have to be. I think it's important to be have a voice in controlling what you control. So that's with CUB. It's getting involved in what I like to call energy democracy, where you actually see more participation in the decisions that are being made in the areas that can be controlled. Because you and me sitting here, we can't control the commodity price of natural gas, but on areas where regulators can make decisions that affect the prices that folks pay. That's important, that there's more participation in that process, and then take steps into your own hand to the extent you can. Whether it's sealing around the windows, getting a professional focus on energy trade ally in to really take steps around the house. Take advantage, if you're in economic dire straits, take advantage of the crisis and energy assistance dollars that are out there. It's really critical that everybody have these price spikes on their mind right now.
Yeah, and actually, it's really good timing because, I talked about fuel reconciliation, but the other thing is Madison Gas and Electric Company, We Energies, Wisconsin Public Service, they're all going to be in for some sort of rate adjustment for 2023, which means that folks should be looking in their email inboxes or their mailboxes for notification from their utility, letting them know that, if they're not listening right now, that there's a rate case coming, and that should be the sign. That should be the trigger for people that they should start thinking about these things and thinking about participating in the process,
Exactly.
Putting in comments before the commission, Whether it's reaching out to our staff, reaching out to commission staff, talking with anyone who knows kind of what's going on and what the lay of the land is for, the outlook for 2023, getting informed, and then making your voice heard. I mean, certainly our job is to sort of be a force multiplier, as it were, to sort of speak for, customers, all customers, residential and small business. But certainly, it really helps the decision-making process if individual stories and individual situations and individual experiences are brought before the commission when they make those decisions.
That's absolutely right. And so more price pressure is coming based on the fact that we know we have three utilities out of the big five that are coming in this year. So participate. That's a bottom line from me.
Participate. I think yesterday was election day in Wisconsin. The day will come soon in Madison, where it will be the same message: participate, make your voice heard.
Make your voice heard. That's what we like to talk about.
Cool. Well, I think you gotta scoot and drive back to Milwaukee. I gotta go catch a 3-year-old. But I hope this was interesting for folks. We're gonna keep trying to do this. When we talk in the office, there's never seems to be an end to the topics that we think people should hear about.
That's right. Well, stay tuned, like and subscribe, all that good stuff.
All right. Cool. All right. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks.